I think this is our first
Right,
No,
lecture.
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
First lecture.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
So, so the subject is histology practical, and I suppose your P2 batch, and the subject code is BMLS 3054. So, okay, to be frank, students, histology is one of the most tough subject to understand. Really depth and really tough to understand. So, and also uh, the basics are fundamentally very simple. In histology, what we are studying is we are trying to understand the morphology of the tissue, the morphology of the normal tissue. So here we know that tissues are made up of individual cells. So what we are going to do is we are trying to understand the morphology of tissues present in various parts of the body. Like what is the morphology of the tongue tissue? What is the morphology of the cheek? What is the morphology of the intestine? What is the morphology of your brain tissue? So here we are only studying the anatomy, the structure of the tissue, and what type of structure we are understanding, the normal structure of the tissue. We are not going for any pathological, we are not going for any diseased tissue. Here we are only understanding the basic structure of the tissue. So the meaning of histology is, histo means tissue, logy means to study. So histology means to study the tissue. Study of tissue morphology is called histology. And why it is so important and why it is so difficult to understand the histology? First, I will tell the importance of histology. We know that any kind of disease which is originating from microbes or cancers, this disease will start at the cellular level. These microbes will start destroying our cells. When the cells get damaged, a group of cells will damage a tissue. A group of tissue damage results in failure of the corresponding organ. I will give you one example. Imagine a patient got a Cryptococcus neoforms infection. It's a fungus. Okay, it's a small yeast cell which entered into the through the respiratory tract. It entered into the patient. Then this fungi will start migrating towards the brain. After migrating to the brain, this fungus will start literally digesting the brain alive. So first it will eat 2 to 3 neuron cells, then it will start eating the entire brain tissue, nervous tissue. Gradually what will happen? You can expect the consequences out of it. The patient may go to coma, epilepsy, seizures, even death can occur. So any disease occurs due to damage of the tissues. Due to damage of tissues, the corresponding organ function will be lost. If it is a brain, you can't think. If it is your heart, you can't beat. If it is your muscles, you can't walk. If it is your digestive system, you can't digest. If it is your kidney, you can't excrete. So that results in the failure of the corresponding organ. And this failure of organ not happens within a day or within hours. Microbes need some time to destroy the organ. They are not superheroes. They too will do the destruction slowly. So by the time we are seeing signs and symptoms in the patient that the patient has some brain abnormality, by that time an enough damage may occur in the brain. So it will be really challenging for us to rescue the patient. But if we identify the problem in the beginning itself, means there is a high chance of saving the patient life. Rather than observing the signs in the late stage of the infection, if we observe the signs in the beginning, then there is a high chance of curing the patient. But the problem with the early detection is their own patient looks perfectly fine, and no one is ready to undergo any medical checkup if they are healthy. They will assume that they are perfectly fine and they won't seek a doctor. But they don't know what's happening in their body. If we observe the patient in his early stages, then there is a high chance of curing the patient. There is a high chance of delaying the death of the patient. Right? So, for pathogens, let us keep aside. Pathogens will come and they will do destruction, and they will destroy the cells and tissues, and that results in the disease. So here, this is one thing. And second one is, other than pathogens, we will also get diseases by the form of cancers. Cancers is really problematic thing. So cancer means it is our own cell, but they will start growing abnormally. They will start reproducing abnormally. That means instead of having 100 cells in one particular area, I will have 1 million cells, and that is called cancer. Abnormal cell division is called cancer. And this is really problem to identify these cancers, because I have a tissue which is damaged by the pathogen. I can clearly identify the damaged tissue. It may undergo necrosis, it may have some problems. Definitely there will be a nutrition deficient, and there will be some putrefaction. Tissue will start decaying. The decomposed tissue, identifying decomposed tissue is not a big deal. We can easily identify the decomposed tissue. But identifying a cancer tissue is really tough, because cancer tissue is our own cells, our own tissue, and it is alive. The tissue looks perfectly fine, but it is a cancer. So identifying a cancer tissue will be really challenging for us. It mimics like it is a normal tissue. It mimics like it is a healthy tissue. If that is the case, how we can able to differentiate a normal tissue from an abnormal cancer tissue? I have a normal tissue and I have a cancer tissue. How can I say the difference? How can I able to differentiate between a... Yes?
So it's growth.
By growth?
So it's growth.
Abnormal growth.
Uncontrollable growth.
Uncontrollable growth. Okay. Now listen. Patient have a cancer in its early stage. So the number of cells looks same in both the tissues. Number of cells looks same in both the tissues. But there is cancer, ongoing cancer.
Yes, sir.
Then? Figure.
The tissue
I mean morphology. Actually, students, I think my earphones has some issue. Just once I can speak. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Now,
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I think earphones has issue. Yeah. Now tell me, students, how will you differentiate a normal cell from a cancer cell?
that they look exactly the same. That they will look exactly the same with the same morphology.
Yeah, they look exactly the same, and this is the problem. But thankfully, even cancer tissues or cancer cells will show certain signs and symptoms. The nuclear to plasma ratio will be different in cancer cells. That means cancer cells nucleus will be large, and the reason is, since they are undergoing rapid cell division, their DNA activation will be high, so their nuclear content will be high. So by seeing nuclear plasma ratio, we can identify a cancer cell. Or before undergoing a cancer stage of any normal cell, it will go certain transformations. It will undergo certain morphological changes. That is called cellular adaptations. Whenever a cell underwent any stress, then cell will try to adjust itself. It will try to adjust itself by decreasing the size of the cell, or by increasing the size of the cell, or cell will change its morphology. A cuboidal cell will convert to a columnar cell. So like this, cell will try to adjust to that stress. But even after this adjustment, still the cancer persists, means then definitely it will go to a second stage called neoplasma state. Neoplasma state means it is the starting stage of the cancer. So now we understood that cancer cells will try to undergo, or they will try to change their morphology. Now cancer cells will have a different morphology. Instead of having cuboidal cells, they may be in columnar cells, and they look perfectly fine. Now what we can do to identify a cancer cell is, because it is mimicking like it is a healthy cell, instead of cuboidal we have a columnar. Now what we can do is, assume patient has some buccal cancer. Now what we will do is, I will take a healthy cheek like me. I will take my own cheek, okay, my tissue, my buccal tissue, and I will see the morphology. In my buccal tissue, I identified that I have squamous cells and I have cuboidal cells. Okay, in a healthy patient, I have squamous cells and cuboidal cells. Then I took a cancer patient, suspected cancer patient, and I took his buccal smear. And there also I found cells. In his, I found ciliated cells and hypertrophy cells. Okay, in a healthy patient, I have cuboidal and columnar, whereas in a suspected cancer patient, I have two different types of cells. Actually, those cells should not exist in a normal patient, normal person. There should not be any ciliated cells in a normal patient, normal person. If we find different cells in the supposed location, that indicates it's a suspicious thing. Maybe some cancer is ongoing. That is why they have different types of cells rather than the actual cells. To understand the cancer cell, to understand the different type of cell, first we must know the normal morphology of the tissue. Only upon knowing the normal morphology, then we can able to differentiate an abnormal from normal. So in this particular subject, we are not going to study abnormality, because before even understanding abnormality, you must know normal. Simply, I'm expecting in my thoracic cavity lungs and heart. Instead of lungs and heart, if I have some liver or bone marrow, that indicates I have a cancer, right? Similarly, here we are studying only the normal morphology of the tissue. So studying the normal morphology of tissue is called histology. So in this semester, you will study normal histology. Then in the next semester, you will study histopathology. Histopathology means there you will study the diseased tissue. Before studying diseased tissue, you must know the basic tissue morphology. That is why we have this introductory course on histology. Okay, basics in histology.
Sir,
what are the types of tissues present in the body? Yes, Aman.
Sir, in fourth semester we will study.
Yes, Shivam.
Sir, in fourth semester we will study about histopathology.
Exactly. In the coming semesters, you will study about histopathology. It will be really interesting. So before histopathology, first you must know what is normal histology. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, that is why we have included this. And also, I need at least 2 introductory classes on histology, because I'm not going to handle theory of this particular subject. So I must give my point of view of basics in histology. Then only we can study the individual experiments. Anyway, don't worry,
Okay.
you have only 9 experiments, 9 or 11 experiments. Each experiment hardly takes only 1 hour to finish. So before understanding each experiment, you must know the basics in histology. Without basics, it will be really challenging to understand the histology. Okay, so I will discuss. So the slides I will discuss later. So first, let me tell you few more fundamentals in histology. So now you came to know the meaning of histology. So histology means here we will study the morphology of the tissue, right? Then second one, why we are studying? To differentiate normal tissue from abnormal tissue. The applications of histology is to identify the diseased tissue and to identify the type of cancer. We are studying histology. That cancer and diseases is a different branch of histology that will come under histopathology. To understand histopathology, first we need basics, and those basics will be covered in this particular semester called histology in this course. Then the other thing, I will go to the slides now. In the middle, I kept a scientist image. So his name is Marcello Malpighi. I don't know whether you understood him or not. Malpighian corpuscles. So Malpighian corpuscles will present in the spleen. So this is the person who has identified that oxygen and carbon dioxide exchange happens in the lungs at the level of capillaries, has been identified by this particular person. So he identified there is something called capillaries in our body, and at the capillaries, the exchange of gases happens. So capillaries may be playing important role in gas exchanging animals. So he studied 2 different animals, snails and mammals. In the snails, there is no blood vessels, but in the mammals they have. So he concluded that
The higher animals have this capillaries. Okay, so how he identified the capillaries is a real question. Okay, I will tell you here. So just a second. Okay, so the same story, whatever I say. So we will get diseases due to some pathogens, either pathogens, genetic variations, or lifestyle variations. So these diseases happens at the cellular level. If the cell get a group of cells will make a tissue. So if this cell damage means the tissue will get damaged. Damaged tissue results in transformation. Either it can go to decaying or it will change its morphology. Instead of having columnar cells, here we have cuboidal cells or squamous cells. So this transformation tissue can happen in starting stages of cancer, and the starting stage of cancer is called metaplasia. Okay, to identify metaplasia, first you should know the normal morphology of tissue. Only after knowing normal morphology, then you can able to differentiate abnormal morphology. So that is why in histology we are studying the normal morphology of various tissues in our body, right? So this is a normal cell, underwent some external stimuli like a cancer stage, and it transformed into a different type of cell. So this is how a cancer will start in our body. Okay, so in order to understand these cancers, first we must know the normal morphology of the tissue. Okay, now my question is, in reality, the cells present in our body are transparent in nature. The cells present in our body are transparent. That means even if you keep cells in a slide, you won't find the cells. Just like the way if you keep broken glass pieces on a glass, you can't identify broken glass pieces because they are also transparent. The same problem with our cells. These are the real cells. So here these cells looking very transparent in nature. So we can't even say that they are cells. We can't study those cells. Actually, this cells has been adjusted. Polarization of light has been adjusted to visualize, but usually we can't see any cells. Okay, they're very highly transparent in nature. Now, somehow we need to stain these cells. Somehow we need to give colors to this cell. Only upon giving colors, we can able to identify the cell morphology. So in the second slide here, you can see colorized version of the same cells. So here I have given colors to the cells so that these cells can be visualized under a microscope. This should be pointed. Before studying histology, our first problem we will encounter is visualizing the cells. Okay, we have microscope, but even after having microscope, we need to stain the cell. We need to visualize the cell. Then only there will be a use of microscope. Okay, you have bat, but you cannot play a cricket without a ball. Similarly, even though we have microscope, we need some coloring agent to visualize the cells in the microscope. And how to color the cells is a real challenge to the scientists back in those days. At that time, our Malfigi has developed a technique to visualize the cells under the microscope. So he used certain dyes called methylene blue. He used dyes like Leishman stains. So by using these stains, he visualized the cells under microscope. So he pointed, or he did an extensive research on staining the cells, and it is because of his lifetime work. Today, the histology became a handheld subject to us. So he is regarded as a father of histology. So he is the one who has colorized the cells, and he is the one who made a major contributions in a new branch called histology. So until then, there is no branch called histology. So after the development of these coloring techniques, we got an entire new branch in the field of medicine called histology, where we are curing patient diseases by studying patient tissues. A breakthrough in the field of medicine with a new branch called histology. Okay, so then let us see the problem again. How to colorize the cells? That is our problem. Now see, students, imagine you may think coloring cells is not a big deal. It's a very easy task to do it, right? First of all, I will tell you a clear difference between a dye and a stain. I hope you know what is dye. Dye means a coloring agent. It will give, upon applying it, it will give color to any substance. That is called dye, right? Hair dye. You will keep many colors of hair dye or black color hair dye, which is a dye, right? Now, I will give you an example. Are you following me, students?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
sir.
So now let us see the dye problem. Imagine you have a glass of water. In the water, you kept a turmeric powder. So upon wearing this haldi or turmeric powder, what will happen? The water will turn into yellow color. Now it is a yellow color solution, right? Now you can pour this water on a kerchief, on a white kerchief. So the white kerchief will become a yellow color kerchief. This is called dyeing of cloths. Okay. Now take a slide with the cells on it and try to keep this yellow color solution, this turmeric solution, on the cell and see whether you can able to colorize the cell or not. No, it is not possible.
No, sir.
No, it is not
No,
possible.
sir.
You cannot dye a living cells. If it is this much simple, we may achieve it far before, right? So we cannot visualize the cells, or we cannot dye as a living cells with this kind of method. Living cells need a different approach to dye them, to colorize them. So what to do is, we know that living cells are made up of this plasma membrane, this lipid plasma membrane. Cells have a cytoplasmic membrane. This cytoplasmic membrane is made up of phospholipids. They're made up of lipids. And we know from biochemistry that lipids will have a overall charge of lipids will be negative in charge. Overall charge of the lipids will be negative in charge. That means living cells has a charge. Second one, lipids are hydrophobic in nature. That means they don't dissolve in the water. So I have given two properties to the cell. One is lipids are hydrophobic. Because of this hydrophobicity, lipids won't colorize with the normal dyes. Then lipids has a charge. It is negative charge. Now we can use this negative charge as a weapon, as an advantage. We can take the advantage of the negative charge of the cell membrane. Now what we can do is, we will take our turmeric solution again. Now I will try to give charge to my solution. I will give positive charge to my solution. We already know that an electron will attract towards a proton, and a minus charge will attract towards the positive charge. Now what I'm going to do is, I will somehow give charge to my dye solution. I will give positive charge to my dye solution. Upon giving positive charge, I can able to attract my dye towards the negative charged cell membrane. So my dye will colorize the living cell. Converting a normal dye solution to a charged solution is called staining. Stain. This is the major difference between a dye and a stain. A stain will have a charge, whereas a dye won't have any charge. If you give charge to the dye, then it will become a stain, and this stain can be used to visualize the cells. The idea is very simple. You need to give charge to the dye, then it will become it will get either positive or negative charge, and this charge will help in binding to the cell, and that is called stain. Is it clear until here?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Yeah. Now, one of the most commonly used stain to visualize tissues is H&E staining. It is called H&E stain. H means hematoxylin, E means eosin stain. H&E stain, hematoxylin and eosin stain. Okay, it is called hematoxylin and eosin stain. So hematoxylin is a blue color component. It is a blue color dye, whereas eosin is a pink color dye. Okay, magenta pink color dye. So what is this hematoxylin and what is this eosin? What is their properties? You have already know the colors. Hematoxylin is blue color or purple color and eosin is pink or magenta red color. Okay, so listen very carefully. In the cell, we have two portions. In the cell, we have two portions, the nuclear portion and the cytoplasmic portion. In the cell, we have two portions, nuclear portion and the cytoplasmic portion. So I will take a new slide here. Just a second, students. I want a new slide. Okay, here. Can you see the screen again? Is it visible? Can you see blank screen?
No, sir.
No,
No,
sir.
there's nothing.
As I
You
expected.
stop
it is
sharing
so.
the screen.
Yeah, now. No, right?
No, sir. No.
I know I will got this problem. Yeah, now see. Can you see empty screen now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Listen, student, these basics are very, very important. Whatever I'm telling, follow my lecture carefully, okay? So, yeah. I'm drawing a cell here. So, a cell will have a nucleus and it will have a cytoplasm. Now, in the nucleus, what will present? Tell me, students. In the nucleus, what will present?
So DNA structures.
DNA, very good. In the nucleus, we have DNA.
Yeah.
What is the full form of DNA? What is the full form of DNA?
Deoxyribonucleic
Very
acid.
good.
Deoxyribonucleic acid.
Deoxyribonucleic acid. I'm telling again, it is an acid. Okay, deoxyribonucleic acid. So this is an acid portion of the cell. The nucleus is acidic in nature. It is acidic in nature. ACIDIC. Acidic in nature. Okay. So it is acidic in nature. Then in the cytoplasm, we have something called ribosomes. What is the purpose of ribosomes? What is the major function of ribosomes? Tell me, students.
Synthesis of protein.
Perfect.
Synthesis of
Synthesis of proteins. In our body, 70 to 80% of proteins charge will be positive charge. Okay, they will be in positive charge. That means they are basic in nature. They are basic in nature. BASIC. Basic in nature. They're basic in nature. Okay, so here I'm writing B. So the cytoplasm will have proteins and proteins will have basic in nature. Their pH will be basic. Okay, so just wait. Now listen, students, very carefully. If I want to stain the acidic nucleus of the cell, what type of stain I should take? Now I have two types of stains. I will draw two stains here. See, one bottle. Okay, so I'm just drawing very simple bottles here. Just a second. I have two types of bottle, students. Okay, one is blue colored bottle. One has blue color reagent. It has a blue color reagent. Okay, so it has a blue color reagent. And other one has pink color. Pink means magenta red. Similar color. Okay, so this is pink color. Now I will tell the charges of these two dyes, stains. So the first stain charge is, it is basic in charge. It is basic charged and it is acid charged. It is basic. Blue color is basic charge and red color is acidic in nature. Now tell me, students, this blue color basic charge will attract towards what portion of the cell? Will
Sir,
basic
DNA.
yeah, will
Sir, acidic.
It will bind towards the acidic part of the cell,
Acidic nature. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
right? Whereas acid will bind to the
Basic part.
basic part of the cell. Basic part of the cell. If that is the case, how the cell will appear? The nucleus will become blue, whereas the cytoplasm will appear in
Magenta red.
magenta.
Magenta.
Very good. Now you have mastered in the principle of H&E staining. So in the H&E staining, we will take a basic dye and an acidic dye. Basic dye will stain the acidic part of the cell, whereas acidic dye will stain the basic part of the cell. This basic dye is called hematoxylin. It is called hematoxylin. This basic dye is called hematoxylin, which is blue color. So this is called hematoxylin. Okay, I'm just writing HX. You just remember it is hematoxylin. HX means hematoxylin. And the pink, yeah, and the pink color is called eosin.
Eosin.
EOSIN. Eosin. Eosin. Okay. EOSIN. I'm just writing EOSIN. Okay. Eosin. This is the principle
So
of
what is the
hematoxylin.
pronunciation of the blue one?
Yes.
So what is the pronunciation of the blue one? Hematoxylin?
Hematoxylin, and second one is eosin. Hematoxylin and eosin.
Okay, sir.
So this is the universally standard. Oh my God. Sorry, students. Actually, it's a very big story. Just wait. Whatever I'm telling is basics. I went to the last of the slide. Okay. Sorry. Okay. This is called hematoxylin and eosin staining. So this is the universally standardized stain for staining the living tissues of the body. The tissues of the body will be stained with the help of this hematoxylin and eosin stain. Okay. Now this hematoxylin was recovered from a tree bark. Okay, just like a neem tree, there is a tree called hematoxylin. I don't know the full botanical name of the tree, but it is something like hematoxylin, not atom, something. So from that tree, we will take this dye. We will take the stem of the tree. We will dry the stem. We will make powder out of it. Then this powder will be dissolved in a water. Then it does not have any charge. It is just a dye. Now we will ripen the dye. Ripening of dye means we are providing charge to the dye. How we will provide charge means we need to keep this solution in the under the sun for 6 months. If you keep this solution in the sun for 6 months, then the dye will turn into stain. This particular phenomenon is called ripening. But due to advancements in the chemistry, now we can do this 6 months delayed technique of ripening the solution by addition of certain oxidizing agents to the dye. So within 4 to 6 hours, we can able to prepare stain out of this dye. So that is called oxidation ripening. Okay, or oxidizing ripening. So these techniques I will discuss later. How to prepare this hematoxylin solution, how to prepare eosin solution, I will discuss later. Okay, so this is the overall concept of H&E staining. So the principle of H&E staining is the acidic component of the cells has the affinity. Affinity means attraction towards the basic dye. Here our basic dye is hematoxylin, and the basic component of the cell have the affinity towards the acidic dye, which is eosin. So in hematoxylin and eosin stain, hematoxylin stains the acidic part of the cell, that is nucleus. So hematoxylin is called nuclear stain, while eosin acts as an acidic stain and binds to the basic part of the cell. That is why eosin is also called cytoplasmic stain. hematoxylin is called nuclear stain, and eosin is called cytoplasmic stain. By reading this paragraph, it might looks like a headache to you, but if you understand the concept, this is nothing. Whatever we discussed here is explained here. Kindly go through the principal ones. The acidic part of the cell has affinity towards the basic dye, and the basic component of the cell will have the affinity towards the acidic dye. So in hematoxylin and eosin stain, hematoxylin stains the acidic part of the cell, which is nucleus, whereas that is why hematoxylin is called nuclear stain, whereas eosin acts as an acidic stain and binds to the basic part of the cell, which is cytoplasm of the cell. Is there any confusions in this principle?
No, sir.
No, right?
No, sir.
Yeah, perfect. So actually you mastered at understanding H&D staining principle. Usually this will be really confusing. People will easily confuse on this principle. If you understand basics, it will be really easy. So this is the principle of H&D staining. Okay, to know the principle, just remember this diagram. Then you can remember it forever. So this is the H&D staining. That is why I said you to purchase only these two pencils. So these two colors available in the market, hematoxylin pencil and eosin pencil. Actually, they are blue color and pink color pencils. Okay, so you can use these pencils to draw the cells. All the types of tissues we will visualize by using this hematoxylin and eosin staining. That means all types of tissues will be only in two types of colors, either blue color and pink color. So that is why in the beginning I kept beautiful pictures of tissues here. So here, wherever you can see blue, that is the nucleus of the cell, and the pink portion is the cytoplasm of the cell. And also, always remember, whenever you are drawing any tissues or cells, you must keep a blue dot. You must keep a nucleus to the cell. If you are not keeping nucleus, that indicates it is a dead cell. So don't do such mistakes. You must keep a small dot in the center, a blue dot for every cell. That indicates it is a living cell. Okay, so we can able to see various types of tissues. So here we will see various types of tissues, right? Now, the challenging part will be what type of tissue will have what type of morphology. What are the types of cells present in the cheek? What are the types of cells present in the nervous tissue? What cells present in the connective tissue? What cells present in the muscle tissue? So all these tissues, cell morphology need to be studied, and that will be studied in the histology. So for studying any tissue as a whole, first you must know the basics of cells. This we have done an extensive revision in your anatomy and physiology. Actually, in the first unit of anatomy and physiology, we have different types of cells like a normal cell, cuboidal cell, squamous cell, columnar cell, ciliated cell, transitional cell. Then we discussed about various types of epithelium, simple epithelium, stratified epithelium, pseudostratified epithelium, then transitional epithelium, various types of squamous epithelium. So all this revision must be done only after understanding the basics in cells and tissues. Then only we can go for the higher level understanding of various tissues of organs. Okay, so I will do this revision for coming next 2 days. Okay, so yeah, so now you got some idea about histology. So in the histology we are studying the tissue, the structure of the tissue, and we understood how we are visualizing the tissue. So we are visualizing the tissue with the help of H&D staining. So hematoxylin and eosin staining. Hematoxylin is a nuclear stain, whereas eosin is a it is a cytoplasmic stain. If you see the hematoxylin is a basic stain that will stain the acidic part of the cell, whereas eosin is a acidic stain that stains the basic part of the cell. If you see the steps of H&D staining, this I will discuss later, students. The steps looks somewhat weird to you, but I will come to the steps later. Okay, there is something called differentiation and there is something called decolorization. This I will discuss later, and there is something called deparaffинization. I will come to this point later. Okay. Actually, I must discuss this differentiation and something called bluing. Okay, How can I start about differentiation and bluing? Okay, let me give a short introduction on that also. Just a second, let me take 2 more empty slides.
This time we need to bring the consent form for online offline classes.
That still we didn't get any protocol for that. I will let you know. Okay, if they're saying consent form, I will let you know. As of now, there is no consent form.
And so that rapid test.
Yeah, still we don't get it. Actually, now they're asking vaccine status of the student, whether you get vaccinated.
Vaccine status.
Yes, sir. We will get the vaccination status.
What if we got corona after first vaccine dose and we came to college?
Yeah, I think you must get vaccinated. Then only you will be allowed to the campus. So
Yes.
try to get vaccinated. Okay. Now it is available everywhere.
Yes, sir.
Try to do it quick. Okay.
Yes.
Then so one, if you see here, the principle of H&E staining relies on the pH of the both cell and the stain actually. So either it is a acidic pH or basic pH. So pH playing a vital role in this particular staining method. Now there are two phenomena among staining. I will tell you those two. I will draw here. Just see. Have you finished your gram staining? Do you remember gram staining?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, in the gram
sir.
staining, you will encounter a word called decolorization. Decolorization.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and there is another thing I will introduce now, which is called differentiation. Differentiation. Now, what is the difference between a decolorizing agent and differentiator? So I will draw a structure of cell here. See, so this is a cell which has been stained with methylene blue. For example, so I have overstained this cell with a methylene blue. So excessive colorization of methylene blue resulted in overall blue staining of the cell. Now what I will do is, in the gram staining, what is the decolorizer we are using? Can anyone say? It is
Violet, sir. That is violet.
no, it is acid alcohol. Do you remember?
No, sir.
We will use a differentiator as a alcohol, right? 95% alcohol or acetic acid decolorizing agent.
So what is the stain
Yes,
used, sir?
sir.
Gram staining.
So in gram staining, what is the stain used?
Methylene blue.
No, sir. Yes. Now I'm getting the recap.
Yeah. See.
Just ignore it. Okay, just ignore it.
Okay. So see here. Now the decolorizer will remove all the color from the cell. Decolorizer will remove complete color from the cell. That is why it is called decolorizer. But a differentiator. Now I will show you two colors of the cell. See here. For example, I have blue color nucleus and I have pink color cytoplasm. Pink color cytoplasm. For example, or second scenario, I have blue color nucleus. Sorry. How can I do? How should I do redo? Eraser, okay. I'm taking pink. Okay. So in the second case, in this second case, I need to remove only one particular dye from the cell. I need to remove only one particular dye from the cell. Here, I'm not going to remove both eosin and hematoxylin. Rather than removing both, I want to specifically remove the hematoxylin from the cell. I need to specifically remove hematoxylin from the cell. Hematoxylin from the cell. So for that, I will use a specific agents. I will use some specific agents which will specifically remove a desired dye from the cell, a desired stain from the cell. Such stains are called differentiators. They will differentiate any two colors of the cell. They will specifically remove a particular stain from the cell. Such components are called differentiators. In the gram staining, you can even keep under running tap water to decolorize it for 2 to 3 minutes.
Sir, it is like washing off, no sir?
Yes, you can wash the slide under running tap water, where your complete cell will get decolorized if you keep a prolonged time, like for 10 minutes. But whereas a differentiator, even after keeping for 2 to 3 hours, it will only remove a specific dye from the cell, a specific color from the cell. Such agents are called differentiators. So in the HND, the differentiator we are using is acid alcohol. Okay, so I was confused here actually. So the acid alcohol is used as a differentiator in HND staining. So what I'm going to do is I will use acid alcohol to stain the cell. Okay, now we will get a problem after using this acid alcohol. The problem is nucleus is in acidic nature. Then after using acid alcohol, even the cytoplasm will become acidity. Even cytoplasm pH will become acidic in nature. That means entire cell will be in blue color. This is the problem we will encounter in HND staining. When we are using acid alcohol as a differentiator, this acid alcohol will give acidity to the cytoplasm of the cell. After using acidic wash, now we understood that after using acidic wash, the overall pH of the cell become acidic. Now we need to bring back the normal basic acidity of the cytoplasm of the cell. How we can do this? Now what we will do is we will suspend the cells in a basic solution. We will suspend the cell in a bicarbonate solution or lithium carbonate solution. So by dipping the cells in lithium carbonate, we can bring back the actual basicity of the cytoplasm of the cell. And this step of HND staining is called bluing. Okay, this particular step is called bluing. Okay, so in bluing, what we are doing, after differentiating cell with acid wash, we are suspending cell in a lithium carbonate solution to bring back the normal pH of the cytoplasm, to bring back the basic nature of the cytoplasm. We need not to worry about nucleus, because already nucleus pH is acidic in nature, so it won't get affected by basic dip. Okay, so this step is called bluing. Only after bluing we will go for counter stain. So now let us see the procedure. So first we will take we will stain with hematoxylin. Okay, after staining with hematoxylin, we will do a quick water wash. Then we will differentiate it with 1% acid alcohol. After differentiating, we will go for wash. And since we used acid to differentiate, now we need to bring back the pH of the cytoplasm. That will be achieved by suspending the cells in a lithium carbonate solution. This step of HND staining is called bluing. After bringing back the original pH of the cell, we will again go for washing. Then we will counter stain with eosin. After counter staining with eosin, we will wash and we will observe under microscope. The starting and last steps I will discuss later. So these are the major steps in H&E staining. First we will do with primary stain, hematoxin for 3 to 5 minutes. Then we will wash under water. We will go for differentiation with 1% acid alcohol. Then we will wash. Then we will go for bluing. It's a saturated lithium carbonate solution. Then we will wash. Then we will go for counter staining with eosin for 1 minute. Then we will wash under water and we will go for microscopic examination. So these are the steps of H&E staining. So the purpose of differentiation, the purpose of bluing has been given in the right side of this slide. So what is differentiation and what is bluing has been discussed here. Okay, so these are the overall steps of H&E staining. In the starting you can see deparaffinization, and in the last you can see dehydration, clearance, DPX, mounting. I will discuss later. Okay, so this is the basic idea about H&E staining. Okay, so is everything clear so far? Have you understood what is bluing,
Yes, sir.
students?
Yes, sir.
Any
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
confusions? No, right?
Yes, sir.
If you have confusion, kindly let me know. I will clear it. I
No,
hope
sir,
not.
no confusion.
Okay, fine. Then interpretation of results. So the results will be like this. The nucleus will visualized like a blue color, whereas cytoplasm will be in pink color. Okay, then yeah, this is just basics. You need not to worry about the content I'm discussing now. Okay, so what is cell injury and cell death? So this is a normal cell, students. Whenever cell undergoing any stress, if the cell is under attack by pathogens or if the cell is going any stress, then cell will try to adopt. First cell will try to adopt before dying. Okay, before dying of the cell, it will try to adopt. This adoption can happen in 4 types. Either cell size will become small, this is called atrophy of cell, or cell size will try to increase, that is called hypertrophy of the cell, or cell count will be increased, this is called hyperplasia, or cell morphology will change from one morphology to the another morphology, this is called metaplasia. So first cells will try to adopt to the stressful environment. Even after adopting, still cell is unable to tolerate the stress, then cell will go for injury. It will go to injury. That means it will go to death. This injury happens in 2 types. One is good injury and other one is bad injury. Or I can say good death and bad death. Good death means body will purposefully kill the stressed cells. This is called foreground cell death. Why body killing its own cells? Because cell under stress can underwent cancer. To prevent such cancer activity, our body will kill the normal cells who are under stress. And this normal cell death is called foreground cell death. There is a specific word called apoptosis. Apoptosis means foreground cell death is called apoptosis, which is also called reversible cell injury. We can able to bring back the cell alive if we want. Such injury is called reversible cell injury. Then we have irreversible cell injury, that is called necrosis. Necrosis means we cannot bring back the cell alive. Such death is called necrotic injury. Okay, now let us see these adoptions again. So during any stress can occur due to pathogens, stress can occur due to lifestyle variations, stress can occur due to cancer agents. So during this stress, cell may become small, it may become big, it may increase the cell count, or it may change from one morphology to other morphology. So they are called cell adoptions. So we have various types of adoptions like atrophy, hypertrophy, hyperplasia, metaplasia. And these are the signs that we are trying to detect in the histology, in the tissues. We will see whether the normal cells become smaller or whether the normal cells become bigger, or the cell count has been increased in the tissue, or is there any change in the morphology of the cells in the tissue. By observing these telltale signs, we can able to predict the health status of the patient. Okay, whether the patient is in normal or whether he is developing any metastasis or neoplasm in the body or cancer, pre-cancer conditions in the body. Okay, so there are two types of reasons for cell adoption. One will be normal conditions and other one will be pathological condition. Normal condition, we need not to worry. These things I will discuss later. This will be really depth. I will go with it later. This I will do later. Okay. So the causes of cell injury can be many types, due to loss of blood supply, due to loss of oxygen, due to excessive phosphorylation, or due to chemical agents, due to infections, due to immunological reactions, due to nutritional imbalance, or due to genetic abnormalities. The cell may undergo some problems. This I will go later. Yeah. So actually, if we have started discussing this, means this will be a pathology. So we need not to worry about pathology. Okay. So in this particular subject, we are only seeing the normal morphology of tissue. So here we need to know the normal morphology of various tissues of the body. We need to know the morphology of lung tissue, brain tissue, blood, heart, muscle, pancreas, eggs, kidney, liver, muscles, everything. So in histology, we are only seeing the normal morphology of tissues. Okay. So forgot about histopathology. Histopathology we will see in the next semester. So for this, the story will go to the beginning. First, you should understand the normal morphology of the cell. Okay. So you should know the morphology of cell and you should know the structures of cell organelles. Then you should know the tissues of the body. So we have four types of major tissues in the body. So the four tissues include epithelial tissue, connective tissue, muscular tissue, and nervous tissue. Then we have various types of cells. Depending upon the morphology, we have squamous cells, cuboidal cells, and columnar cells. Sometimes we will have even ciliated cells. Okay. Then we have various types of tissue: epithelial, connective, muscle, and nervous tissue. So epithelial tissue will come in three types: proper epithelium, granular, and sensory. Proper epithelium we have simple and compound. So simple epithelium means these are a single layer epithelial tissue is called simple epithelial tissue. This can be either squamous simple epithelium, cuboidal simple epithelium, or ciliated simple epithelium. If it is multi-layer, then it is called compound epithelium. We have stratified and transitional. We have stratified columnar epithelium, stratified squamous epithelium, or stratified cuboidal epithelium. Then stratified squamous epithelium are of two types: stratified keratinized squamous epithelium, stratified non-keratinized squamous epithelium. So this we already studied. I will give one thing, students. I will take a seminar on this tissues on our next lab. Is that okay for you? Then it will be a revision because I need not to teach these things again. We have already gone through it. Until you are getting good at these basics of this epithelial tissue, then only we can move on to the study the individual cell tissues of the body. So I'm going to keep seminars for the next lab session. Okay, so we can do a quick revision on these tissues of the body. Is that fine for you?
Okay, sir.
Okay. Be serious, students. From you become second year, that means you become seniors, and hereafter I cannot run behind you. It is your own responsibility to study. Okay, I can only guide you, but I cannot feed you. Okay, you should do the business, and I will just show you the path to study. So be serious, be responsible, and be dedicated from the second year onwards. So this is enough for today's lecture. Thank you very much. Can I end this session? If you have any doubts, you can ask me. If not, I will end this.
No, sir. Sir,
No,
for
sir, no
seminar,
doubt.
we need to take the seminar
Okay.
only.
Yes.
No doubt, sir.
Sir, for
Thank you.
seminar,
Fine.
what we have to do?
Sir,
Yes.
Sir, for
I think
seminar,
Aman
sir,
has
can
now.
you send this particular image to in the group?
Can I send this material to you?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
I will
sir.
send this material. Definitely, I will send it again. Okay. Yeah.
sir, what about seminars? So how will take seminars?
Yes. Yes.
Next class tomorrow we'll take seminar.
Yes, my idea is 1 hour I will take class and 1 hour seminars. So I
Sir,
want,
we prepared.
So he want list.
he want list, seminar list. I will provide. I need to work on it. Okay, I will provide the seminar list.
Okay,
Definitely.
sir.
Okay, sir.
So now
Okay, sir.
Aman is CR.
So
Okay.
please,
Anyway, there will be 1 hour lecture of mine. Then I will go for seminars. Okay, every time.
okay.
Fine.
Okay, sir.
So we can
Thank you,
proceed
sir.
next time. Okay. Thank you very much, students.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Let's
sir,
see
for
you
leaving us 1 hour before.
You should not tell those. Okay. See you, students.
Thank you.